All right, good morning. It is Tuesday, November 17th. I'm Perrin Lovett, and this is the Prepper Post News, courtesy of Freedom Prepper. And welcome to the new, still under construction, studio here at the Southern Command Center. Let me move around for a second. It's going to take some improvements. I've got some more wall work to do. Got to work on the angle of the camera, maybe a new camera. I'm assuming that the sound and the lights will work for now, but look at, I promised a backdrop. It's the, you can almost kind of see it. It's the wall rug of freedom, the bicentennial wall rug from Ethan Allen, 1976. Maybe you've seen one, and I've got the monitor over here that does not work. I didn't know what to do with it. Got a nice little stool to sit in. Also giving you folks another Christmas tie. It's the Holy Family. None of that commercial stuff for me today. So yeah, it's, oh, and wait a minute. What do we have here? I hope the sound is coming through. I've got the little double mic thing. My first bag of Freedom Roasters coffee has arrived. And I had this weekend, but I decided for an on-air testing in the new studio. Mine is the dark roast, the bold and the strong. And I'm still working on a flavor profile, but friends, it's strong. I think ours, we may have to kick up the categorization of your standard coffees a notch or two. I suppose this is the dark roast. I suppose the light is other people's medium. I suppose that our medium is everybody else's strong. Our strong is espresso. And I'm thinking that our espresso has to be hydrazine. So if you like coffee, you are really going to like it a lot. So another prop I've got, the old Aladdin artillery shell with this. Can you see the steam coming off of that? I brewed it kind of strong, and I always make my coffee kind of hot. So here comes the inaugural pour, hopefully not on the computer, the one that works, or the prop computer under that. All right, got some steaming hot coffee. I've been drinking this all morning, so I'm a little jittery. Yeah, Scott has got something there, and we're going to be linking up how you can. We've already, I think I ran a Shopify ad, but this is really good stuff. Let me take another sip, and then we're going to get into our daily feature of this Tuesday. Again, we're looking for your comments, thoughts, whatever they are, as long as they're nice, down in the comments section at the YouTube channel. Oh yeah, Freedom Prepper, Freedom Roasters Coffee. The topic of the day is freedom in general, whether they like it or not. And this is kind of vague, but what I'm looking for, I want to know how you individually find freedom in your daily routine, regardless of who you are, what you believe, or where you are. We're kind of geared for free existence, with certain limitations, of course. Harry Browne, the rest in peace, the great libertarian businessman and presidential candidate, wrote a book called How I Found Freedom in an Unfree World. Well, sometimes it seems like we live in an unfree world, but you can always carve out your little niche no matter where you live. I'm looking for comments from you about how you do that. And maybe you've got the beautiful, we're going to have to adjust the camera because I don't think you could see the 1776, and Mr. Eagle's beak is kind of bisected up there, but work in progress. I may move over away from the wall, and I don't know what this is. To the news. Headlines of today. Speaking of freedom, there's a second wave coming of lockdowns. They're here whether you like them or not. And of course, it depends on where you live. Out in the countryside, you probably don't even know what I'm talking about. If you live in a big city, if you live in a city like London or New York or Paris, you're becoming intimately familiar with what COVID is bringing us this fall and probably going into this winter. The one and only Daisy Luther has a great article over at Organic Prepper. I've got all that and all the other links at freedomprepper.com and of course down here in the description. Speaking of the UK, London, I had a quote from Daisy. This is a great quote. Regarding the pandemic, the lockdowns, and pretty much everything else, this is you finding your freedom. It's important to note that it doesn't really matter whether you personally believe that COVID-19 is risky or not. If your mayor or governor says lockdown, you've got to deal with that regardless of what you believe. And it doesn't believe what a doctor in the UK believes, somebody that's been practicing medicine 25 years in a hospital and private practice, general practice. This doctor in England notes that if not for the government and the media hype, he would have never known there was a pandemic. And yet he's still caught in the middle of it with the rest of us. So check that story out. If you're up in New York City, you did not follow my advice about getting out of the cities. Now, the Big Apple was a great place. There's still a lot of nice things to do there, but it's a hairy situation right now. Has been all year, with your insane politicians putting sick people in with old people at risk in nursing homes, and then turning a blind eye as hooligans run wild in the streets. All the businesses are leaving, everything's shut down, and people are abandoning the city. Those of you who are left are right now going into another lockdown that could last, we don't know how long, to include the schools. So I've got to check. I've got a friend coming in, I think, this weekend from New York, escaping and planning to stay outside the metro area for probably until New Year's, maybe longer. So that's a Yahoo, a lot of coffee, Yahoo story. We've got a link to that. Now, on the note of lockdowns, you could probably weather those a lot better with Freedom Prepper coffee. Putative AP-selected President-elect Joseph Biden may have a softer approach to the pandemic and to the lockdown question than most people think or are afraid of. And we know that fear is never a good thing, but people close to him are saying that, hey, look, he probably doesn't have the power or the authority to mandate a national lockdown. That's not one of his Article 2 constitutional powers or responsibilities. Not that that matters to these people, but what he may do is just have targeted, localized lockdowns and promote those, kind of like what we've been doing so far, which, take it as you will, whether that has worked or not. So take a look at that, a Reuters story. I had to throw this in. This does not affect me. It's from something called The Wrap, which I guess is like wrapping a scene in a studio. It's about lockdowns in the movies and the television. Lifetime Network is producing yet another Christmas television movie. And, all the women in my life watch these movies, and I've seen it more than a few, more than I'd like to admit. It's the same plot. It's going to be a writer who doesn't lead a life like any writer I know, but he's going to meet somebody who's just come back to the small town, and they connect, and then there's some kind of thing, and they kiss. There's a kissing scene, and this one, thanks to the 2020 that will never end, is filmed through plexiglass. So if you're looking for romance, ladies and gentlemen, first get your Freedom Preppers coffee, and second, smooch through a sheet of acrylic plastic. That's romantic. All right, more news, and this is news about news. Some of you may have noticed that the Drudge Report has taken a slight turn to the left this year. I can't tell if it's overall shifting or if Matt is just sick of Donald Trump and Trumpism, but there's been a drifting. It's been loud and proud the past month or so, and Ron Unz was asked to maybe create a separate aggregation site for news that's more right-wing or libertarian or even, to the right of center-left. And he did that. It's Unz News. It's just a list of links. I've got a link to that. Check it out. It's not only good stuff from all over, but you have the ability, in addition to reading, to perhaps submit news stories for everybody else's consideration. There's my Freedom Prepper, Freedom Roasters coffee ad that I think I've done a good job with. Moving right along to the rest of the world. There are always lessons to learn about everything. Most people don't know this because the U.S. media doesn't report anything except what they want, like their choice in an election, or maybe their choice in coffee, which is probably weaker than what I'm drinking. But there's been a war going on in Armenia, between Armenia and, Azerbaijan, but Turkey and Russia are involved. I said watch this when it first broke out, even though it does not directly affect Americans in almost any way. It's on the other side of the world. And I suppose if you're Armenian American, you might have a personal interest in it. But otherwise, there are still lessons to learn. One, it's a war. If we are headed towards a breakdown, it pays dividends to pay attention to every single war out there. But this one is more about, that's not what I meant. This is more about geopolitical shifting. The Saker, writing at UNS again, and probably at some other places, came up with a breakdown of the truce, the ceasefire, and the kind of forcibly installed peace that has just broken out, thank God, in Armenia. And he comes out with the winners and the losers. And the losers look like Armenia and Turkey and everybody else. And the winner is Russia, because Vladimir Putin took this thing over the way he did Syria. And if you're watching things like that, things like new Navy bases in Sudan, of all places, you get the feeling that the balance of power may be shifting. And you're probably right. But that's just another thing to watch. Oh, and I skipped one. We have our own war, several of them, all of them undeclared, and I think we've just given up on the reasons why. But America's longest war, the U.S.'s longest war in Afghanistan, is, praise God, soon coming to an end, or so we hope. Earlier this year, I made note of the U.S. reaching an agreement with the Taliban, of all people, kind of like a peace treaty, which call for cessation of direct attacks between those two factions. There's still a mess going on all over the place. It's just that we are trying not to be involved in it, which is what we should have done forever. But now, troops are going to be coming home. Esper was not on board. That's probably one of the reasons that he was canned at SecDef. And Trump is on schedule to bring the troops home. And that's a great thing. Would this reverse under a Biden presidency? We don't know. But I challenge anybody out there to tell me what the policy objective is in Afghanistan, what it was, what it was supposed to be, and why anyone thinks it's a good idea for us to be there for going on 20 years. End it. End it. And another thing that may be coming to a screeching halt is the wall. Remember the wall? We're going to build a wall, and Mexico is going to pay for it. And we've gotten a little bit of wall. The news, I think this is a Seattle Times story, says that we have, under Trump, 50 miles of new wall. Now, most of that is, I think, refurbished existing sections with just a couple of new miles of wall where there was nothing before. But putative President-elect, AP-selected President Joseph R. Biden and his Vice President Harris plan to put a screeching stop to all of that construction. And in addition, they want to increase various immigrant imports, which we've never really seen a decrease anyway, wall or no wall. And the New York Times, of all places, had an interesting article about the effects of the mass migration of people since 1965 into this country, and how it affects rural and small town America, not just the big cities. Take a look at that. I'm not sure if they're reporting the news or just bragging about it. But one thing we can all brag about is the final word of the day, and that is intelligence. And this could mean cognitive ability or military-style intel. Some people have it, especially in politics, and some people don't, or they refuse to acknowledge it or use it. If you live in Georgia, if you follow Georgia politics, you know something about Stacey Abrams. And a lot of people on the right like to make fun of her for policy reasons and for purely idiotic reasons. All of that, I think, is misplaced. I've got an AJC story about what she has done the past 10 years to swing Georgia blue, and she's a national force to reckon with. And what it boils down to is she has a policy, and she is just relentless in delivering it. Two things about her. Some of you may know the name Selena Montgomery, particularly those of you in the literary sect. I won't say anything more about that. That's the part of Stacey Abrams I really like and admire, because we know she is a very, very, very effective communicator. She knows how to win, and she likes doing it. And second, she is very intelligent. Say all that other stuff you want to. She's got a message, she's pushing it, she knows how to make it effective, and it's a smart message regardless of whether you agree with it or not, and it's working. So if you ignore that, you may go into the other graveyard of empires like Afghanistan. One more sip of coffee, and I'm going to close this out. I know I'm forgetting many, many things. I'm just so excited to be here. Got some more work to do. Got to decide what to do with this monitor that may or may not work. But I hope you have a great day at work today, Tuesday. I'll see you tomorrow, Wednesday. Have a great day. Is it the end of the world as we know it? No. It's just the end of bad coffee. Freedom Roasters.